Greetings, fellow godless rockers. I'm Steve.
And I'm Tally from
Monster on Sunday!
In this week's BAM vlog, we'll talk about how God hates children. So stay tuned for episode 30 of
Godless Rockers.
Do you guys remember all those songs we sang as a kid in church? Like, Jesus loves the little children. Oh, gotta start that over. Is that the right?
I don't know. I don't know the song.
You're gonna have to sing all of this out. I'm sorry.
Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world. Red and yellow, black and white.
Sorry, Browns, you're fucked. They are precious in His sight. Jesus loves the little children of the world. Okay.
I love how it's so racist.
It's so terrible. Okay. Anyway, they're freaking bullshit.
That's obvious. In this episode, we'll let God rear His ugliest head of all and delve into His sick, sadistic, and infanticidal behavior depicted in the Bible.
Warning people, this episode is likely to be severely disturbing and parental guidance is recommended.
It's time to get to know the Bible verses that you were not taught in Sunday school. Brace yourselves.
For God so loved the world that He murdered millions of children, babies, and infants, and He had an array of techniques He employed to do the job.
Sometimes He would strike them down Himself, or He would enlist people to do the deed for Him. Sometimes even the child's own parents. That's lovely. And occasionally He would order wild animals to do His bidding. There are so many god-awful verses in the Bible that it would be impossible to cover here. So today we'll focus on mass murders.
Are you guys seatbelted in tight? Because here we go. The first verse we'd like to mention is, at midnight, God struck down all the firstborn sons in Egypt. There was not a house without someone dead. Exodus 12:29-30.
So obviously this is during the Moses story, during the plagues, where God decided to kill the firstborn of all of those in Egypt because He's a lovely guy.
I don't have much to say about it except for it's disgusting.
Why did He not strike down Pharaoh instead of striking down the innocent firstborn of everyone?
Yeah.
The next verse we'd like to mention talks about God's vengeance on the Midianites, including killing all men, boys, and married women, while the young girls were kept as captives by the Israelites. In Numbers 31, 7-18.
That's so lovely.
Well, that's a very nice way of putting it. They were kept as sex slaves, is what they were.
Yeah.
It's obvious from the verses we didn't read.
Yeah. Young women, really young. Basically, little girls kept as sex slaves. The third disgusting Bible verse we'd like to review is where God slaughtered all the subjects of King Sihon and King Og, including men, women, and children. There were no survivors. Deuteronomy 2:32-34 and 3:3-6.
Next verse we need to talk about is, in the streets, the sword will make them childless. In their homes, terror will reign, and the young men and young women will perish, the infants and those with gray hair. Deuteronomy 32:25.
The fifth verse is where God ordered Saul to totally destroy the Amalekites, including men, women, children, infants, and all animals. 1 Samuel 15:3. Besides all that shit, it's important to note that the vast majority of infants, babies, and children murdered by God were victims in 3 gigantic biblical massacres: Noah's flood, Genesis 6-8, Sodom and Gomorrah, Genesis 18-19, and the conquest of Canaan, Numbers 21, 31, and 33, Deuteronomy 2, 3, 7, and 20, Joshua 6, 8, and 10-12. That's really where the big deaths lie.
Yeah, and of course, we're talking about Noah and the flood. God is killing everyone except for Noah and his family, which is ridiculous on a lot of levels, not to mention the incestuous levels to repopulate the earth a second time.
Good point.
Couldn't He have just killed the adults, the people that knew what they were doing wrong? Or did He even bother telling them that they were doing anything wrong? There's nothing in the Bible that even says that He tried to say, hey guys, I really hate what you're doing, and you should stop or I'm going to kill you all. No, that's not even done.
So Noah's Ark, I think that story is so insane the way it is presented. it is presented with all of the good and none of the bad. Literally, when you're in Sunday school, you're a little kid, you learn about Noah's Ark and you go, his family's so special because they're in God's love and God's light and God helped them. Look how miraculous he helped them. He saved them from drowning and they got in this boat and they even saved all these animals. You're all focused on all the saving and the people who survived. Nobody ever in any Sunday school class sits down and goes, now let's talk about what happened to everybody else.
Yeah.
There are men, women, children, pregnant women, everybody just like floating out there, drowning, dying, screaming. If you want the realistic vision of Noah's Ark, it's a tiny, tiny little boat in a vast ocean filled with dead bodies, okay? Dead bodies and people screaming and drowning and dying from children, infants, pregnant women, all of it.
That's using the word realistic in very vague terms, not to mean realistic at all, because there's nothing realistic about the story whatsoever.
That's true. There's no way that the animals...
It didn't happen.
We could do a whole show just on Noah's Ark, right, and how ridiculous the story is.
It never happened. Never happened,
Didn't happen, people. In case you're wondering. But still, they present these stories to children as true, and they only show this part. They don't go, what about these other people, and how awful is God to make this entire thing happen? When you look at it as an entirety, it's really fucking horrific.
If you're going to go into the innocent animals, well, of course, what about these other animals?
The rest of the animals, only
they all died.
went on, right?
All these animals are murdered because humans are bad, apparently?
Yeah.
Man, this is a problem.
Awesome character.
God just has shitty aim. You would think that somebody who's all powerful could just kill off the people he doesn't like. But no, he has to kill off everything but 2 of each species and Noah and his family. He can't use his all powerfulness to just
pinpoint and knock them dead. It says it did say in the Bible when I was researching the subject that God sometimes just strikes them down like instantly. He goes, "You're dead," and you're just like, dead. Okay, just strikes you down. Done. Why couldn't he have just done that?
Yeah.
Strike everybody down. Avoid the drowning and misery and like this fear of the water's coming and the animals. Just strike everybody down but Noah and avoid the whole flood in general. Just Noah, you're the only ones living now.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that bypass a lot of horrible problems?
I think it would have got the point across just as well, maybe even better, that he didn't like what these people were doing.
Yeah, gone and you guys are still alive.
Yeah.
Why does he go through these extremes of torture and putting people through these processes and stuff? Sorry.
Well, because
It's
I think
really
the reality of the Noah and the flood story is it's a way to understand natural disasters because they do attack people that are completely innocent, that have nothing to do with anything. And there's obviously innocent beings, no matter how you look at that story, there's obviously innocent human beings and animals that were killed in the flood. And so it's like trying to make sense of that.
Infants, and babies. Children's babies and infants.
Yes. All those innocent beings.
Yeah.
They're obviously killed.
That's what the show's
so
about.
it's not a moral story like people would like to pretend that it is.
Well, it only is if you ignore the full picture and focus on the tiny little.
I think what these stories are is they're a way to understand why God is so immoral. It's like, we had a hurricane, we had an earthquake, we had a volcano go off. Well, it's because God's mad and he's just randomly killing us.
Right.
It's to try to understand those type of things, which really, if you had a moral God, he wouldn't indiscriminately kill like that. He would kill based on, you would get killed because you deserved it. There would be a meritocracy. But in the real world, there is no meritocracy. So people want to make sense of it and they say, we're being punished because God's upset with us. Whether or not the people that are being punished are innocent doesn't matter.
True.
It helps them cope with the idea of God in a world that obviously isn't built for a God to exist.
Right. So basically, from what you're saying, these are the human, a medieval or even before that, old time ago, a long time ago, these are ancient human brains trying to struggle with this issue of these natural disasters and trying to put reason to it or assign some sort of morality or reasoning behind it.
Well, they know that in their mind,
stories.
They know that God exists, so they're rationalizing it. And the God that exists in their mind matches with the kind of leaders that they have in this very violent, very tribalistic, very barbaric world. And in our world, it still rings true because we still have this tribalism and we still have these natural disasters that kill people without any regard to who they are. And they'll still attribute it to God. Oh, God caused the flood in Louisiana because of homosexuals. Well, guess what? God missed Rhode Island and God missed San Francisco. God has shitty aim. For some reason, he decided to hit Louisiana, but he missed like the two capitals of the United States of gayness.
Yeah, that's so true. So I guess the moral of that one is God has shitty aim. All right, moving on. We have just a little bit more to go, people. Here we go.
Now let's talk about Yahweh's specific instructions for infant dashing, which is an uber cruel way of killing by throwing a baby against the ground, a wall, or against rocks. That's right, God imposes specific how-to instructions specifically for infants called dashing. Let's reluctantly review that monstrosities. Elijah's prophecy for soon-to-be king, hopefully we get this pronunciation right, for soon-to-be King Hazael, was that he would attack the Israelites, burn their cities, kill their young men with a sword, dash their little children to the ground, and rip open their pregnant women. Isn't that lovely? 2 Kings 8:12.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I have something to say on this. When I read this one, it disturbed me so much. Like, you know, it's like when you see a picture online, like we were just talking today, I saw a picture that came through my Facebook feed. That's why I don't go to the general Facebook feed. There it was, and I couldn't get it out of my mind, and it just like haunted me. It haunts you sometimes. Okay, this is one of those things that haunted me.
What was the picture?
I don't want to say what it is.
Yeah, you should say what it is
It's
so
really
people
violent
identify.
and awful. All right, guys, so it was this woman like this in the picture, crying, holding her baby girl's little girl with pigtails. They're both naked, and they're on top of a bunch of dead bodies. And a Nazi guy was standing here behind, and it was their last goodbye, crying, and she's hugging her baby, naked. They're naked on this pile. Oh, my God. Before he kills them. It was a part of the Nazi thing that happened. Anyways, I saw that. It went through my Facebook, and I was like, ugh. It's one of those things you can't unsee. So I relate very much because I have a little baby boy. I can't imagine me and him naked on this pile of people that I know too, my friends and family, other people in my neighborhood or whatever. I know there are area of people.
And here's the thing,
I can't imagine
is that God is condoning this behavior. God is saying this is what's going to happen. This is how it's going to go down.
Go and slice pregnant women open with a sword and mash their babies against walls and stuff. I can just really, really identify with how awful that would be to actually be there. Thank God these are just stories, you guys. I really hope they're just stories, because if they're true, that God is the most... There's no name. There's no word to describe. It's worse than Hitler, because he has done this kind of thing over time to so many populations, telling people to kill off whole other peoples time and time and time and time and time again. We narrowed this list really hard to narrow down to 10. Okay, but there's 30 plus. There's so many. God basically is Hitler times 100, and he's eternal, so he could keep it going on forever. We just have a few more.
Yep.
And you can't forget this lovely God sentiment, number 9. Happy is the one who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks. Psalm 137:9. Again, horrifying.
Yeah.
Brutal, disgusting. Anyone who's a parent out there should understand that. Imagine having somebody come in and it's ordered. They're forced into your home and they take your baby outside with you watching. They're going to kill you next, by the way. But you have to watch your baby get thrown against the wall until he's dead.
This is the lessons we learned from our ultimate book on morality, the Bible. Our secular morality can't possibly compete with the morality that's taught in the Bible, obviously. No, that's bullshit. These verses prove that human beings do not need the Bible and they do not need Christianity in order to understand what morality is. In fact, you get a better understanding of morality by rejecting the Bible. And last, number 10, God will punish the people of Babylon by dashing their infants to pieces before their eyes. So
real quick.
So a lot of people, religious people will say, oh, you're taking those verses out of context. Okay. Why don't you, since you're claiming that we're taking them out of context, why don't you put them in context for us? Why don't you tell us when the moral time is that you can kill infants? Why don't you tell us when the right time is that you can dash them against the rocks, that you can cut women's bodies open
Who are pregnant.
who are pregnant and
Slice it open, watch the baby fall out and die, and she die. Really?
tell us
What is the context that makes that okay? And a good thing that God did it.
a morality that is not, we as secularists and people with a morality that is not guided by the Bible, I think all of us would agree that there is no occasion where killing infants or slicing women's abdomens open to murder them because they're pregnant and because we disagree with them. I think we would all agree that there's no occasion where that is morally justified.
Yes. All right. So, whoa, that was pretty fucking heavy shit. But what about Jesus? Is Jesus sort of the good cop in the Bible? Turns out, not so much. Jesus hates children as well. Let's check out a few more verses.
The days will come where your enemies will dash you to the ground, you and the children within your walls, because you did not recognize the time of God's coming to you. Luke 19:43 through 44.
So awful. And Jesus coldly confirmed without regret or sorrow that everybody died, including children, infants, and unborn children in Noah's flood by drowning, as well as in the incineration of Sodom and Gomorrah, Luke 17:26 through 29. And Jesus generally approved of the death penalty for Old Testament violations, Matthew 5:17.
Jesus also specifically endorsed capital punishment for children who curse their parents, Matthew 15:4 and Mark 7:10.
And lastly, Jesus made several anti-family statements, such as, I have not come to bring peace to the earth. Rather, I have come to divide father against son, mother against daughter. A person's worst enemies will be the members of his own family. Matthew 10:34 through 36 and Luke 12:51 through 53. So perhaps you can see now why you weren't taught these Bible verses in church. Okay, but in all seriousness, we understand that these are just sick fables and that there is no evidence that these monstrosities happened. Thank God. But there is a wretched part of the story yet to be told.
Yes, and that story is about the people that take the Bible for real and enact its principles towards children in today's world.
Unfortunately, the sad truth is that the Bible-inspired tradition of the murder of children, babies, and infants continues in many countries in our world today. This shit isn't from 2,000 years ago, people. It's happening right the fuck now.
And so to wrap up this quite frankly horrifying subject, we'd like to thank Brian Bolton for his article in American Atheist Magazine, second quarter 2017, titled God Hates Children.
Yes, thank you very much.
Please let us know if you agree with our take on the subject in the comments below.
Tune in next week where we discuss hot God topics. This week, abortion.
Check out last week's vlog, Evolution, Fact or Just a Theory, by clicking right here.
Please join our support team at patreon.com/MunsterandSunday.
Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. See you next Sunday at noon.
We're
Monster on Sunday.
Thanks for joining us on
Godless Rockers.